I was sitting in my small living room in Charleston, South Carolina, when the call came. The rain outside had been pouring for hours, and I was slowly drifting into a state of semi-sleep when my phone rang. At first, I ignored it. Telemarketers, wrong numbers, all that. But then the name popped up on the screen, Rebecca Collins. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't heard from her in years. She was the lawyer Lydia, my ex-wife, had hired before our divorce. The only reason she'd be calling me now was bad news. My first instinct was to hang up. It had been over a decade since Lydia and I parted ways, and we'd barely spoken after that. But curiosity got the best of me. "Mr. Miles?" Her voice was calm, almost too calm. "This is Rebecca Collins, the attorney handling Lydia Jordan's estate. I'm sorry to inform you, but Lydia passed away last week. We need to discuss the specifics of her will." The words hit me like a cold slap to the face. Lydia? Dead? It didn't feel real. She and I hadn't been close for years, but she had been the mother of my child. A part of me wanted to ask how, but instead I just muttered, I didn't know." Rebecca didn't seem to mind. "We'll be handling everything from here. Please come to my office tomorrow at noon. There's something important we need to go over." The next day, I showed up at her office, and what she said next almost knocked me off my feet. Lydia had left everything to me. The house in Palm Beach, the bank accounts, her business investments, all of it. "Mr. Miles, according to the will," Rebecca said, her eyes carefully avoiding mine, "you inherit all of Lydia's assets. However, there's one more thing I need to discuss. Your son, Ryan Miles, will inherit only $1. Hey there, my wonderful friends. I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for tuning in today. It truly means the world to me that you're here. I'd love to know, what time is it where you're watching from? It would make my day if you could give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. Let's get back to my story." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What? $1? Correct. It was her decision." Rebecca's tone was unflinching, almost mechanical. "She left a letter for you. I'll explain everything once you've read it." She handed me the letter. The handwriting was unmistakable. Lydia's elegant, flowing cursive. I could almost hear her voice as I read the words aloud in my mind. "Christopher, I know this will be a shock, but I had no choice. Ryan has become a person I no longer recognize. I've watched him make decisions that have endangered everything, and I can't justify leaving him anything more. You, however, I trust. Protect him. Watch him closely." The letter ended with a final warning. "Don't trust Ryan. He's hiding something. I've done what I can. Now, it's up to you." Rebecca watched me carefully, waiting for my reaction. My mind was reeling. Why had Lydia left me everything? And why had she left Ryan with so little? What was Ryan hiding? I looked up from the letter, trying to process the whirlwind of emotions. Why did she leave him so little? Rebecca didn't answer immediately, but her expression said more than words could. She simply handed me a folder. Inside were transaction records, bank transfers, strange dealings. Lydia had suspected something. But it seemed more than just money was involved. Do you think I should have tried to reach out to Ryan right away? Or should I have waited for more answers? Tell me in the comments. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, barely able to focus on anything except that letter from Lydia. It felt like she had reached out from beyond the grave, warning me of something dark. I hadn't seen her in so many years, but reading her words, it felt like she had never really left. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went over the details Rebecca had given me, the suspicious bank records, And the more I thought about it, the more I began to wonder what Ryan had been hiding. Lydia's words echoed in my mind. Don't trust him. The next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. I couldn't just sit around and wait for things to unfold. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I drove over to Rebecca's office again, my heart heavy with questions. She was already waiting when I arrived, the look on her face serious and intent. "Mr. Miles," she began without a preamble, "I've been going over Lydia's documents again. There's more here than just inheritance. I've uncovered something that might explain why she left Ryan with nothing." I leaned forward, eager to hear what she had to say. "What did you find?" She slid a new folder across the desk, this one thicker than the last. Lydia suspected Ryan of being involved with people she couldn't trust, dangerous people. She didn't want to believe it, but there were signs that he was mixed up with the wrong crowd. I opened the folder. It was filled with reports, letters, and documents that seemed too businesslike to be related to family matters. But buried inside were a few names that made my blood run cold. Ryan's name appeared on a list of financial transactions linked to offshore accounts. These accounts were registered under the names of known criminals. I felt a cold sweat on my neck. I knew Ryan had always been a bit reckless in his younger years, but this was something else. This was something I hadn't seen coming. "Are you telling me that Ryan's been involved with criminals?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Rebecca didn't hesitate. "Yes, Mr. Miles. It looks like Ryan's been laundering money through these accounts for the past year. I'm afraid Lydia's warning was more than just a feeling. She had reason to believe that Ryan was in way over his head." I felt my stomach churn. Ryan? My son? How had he gone from the boy I once knew to this? What had happened to him? As I processed this new information, I couldn't help but think about the last conversation I'd had with him. The coldness in his voice, the way he dismissed everything that had to do with Lydia's death. Had he been hiding this all along? And if so, what did it mean for the future? I ran my hand through my hair, trying to make sense of it all. "Do you think Lydia knew the extent of his involvement?" Rebecca's eyes were sharp, calculating. "I do. But she wasn't ready to confront him. She didn't want to believe her own son could be involved in such a thing." The weight of that truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Lydia hadn't left me everything because she wanted to punish Ryan. She had left me everything because she thought I was the only one who could save him. But how could I save him from himself? From the very people who had wrapped him up in this mess? Do you think I should have confronted Ryan about this right away? Or should I have gathered more information first? Type yes if I was right, and no if I wasn't. I couldn't sit around any longer. The weight of Lydia's warning, "Don't trust him," had been eating at me. I had to face Ryan. There was no more running from the truth. But how could I confront him about something so dark? Something I wasn't even sure he knew was as deep as it appeared. The drive to Atlanta was long and uncomfortable. Every mile I drove, I thought about what I'd say, how I'd approach him. I couldn't just accuse him of being involved with criminals. I needed to know the whole story, but part of me already feared that it was worse than I imagined. When I pulled up to his apartment building, a familiar sense of dread washed over me. This wasn't the same place Ryan had grown up. He'd changed, and I had missed the signs. I hadn't been there for him when he needed me the most. Now, I was about to face a man I didn't recognize. Ryan opened the door as soon as I knocked. His eyes met mine, but there was no warmth in them, no recognition, just coldness. That old barrier I had learned to live with after our separation. "Dad," he said, his voice flat. What are you doing here? Can we talk? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My chest was tight, and the words felt like they were caught in my throat. It's about your mother. Ryan didn't answer right away. He stepped back, holding the door open for me, but there was a hesitancy in his actions. As if he knew this conversation wasn't going to go the way either of us wanted. We sat on opposite sides of the small coffee table in his living room. It was messy, clothes scattered on the couch, empty beer bottles on the floor. This wasn't the son I had raised. My mind wandered back to the days when he was younger, when we would talk about his future and all the things he wanted to accomplish. It felt like a lifetime ago. Lydia's dead, I said, my voice sounding too harsh in the silence. The lawyer called me. She left me everything. Ryan didn't react. His face was a mask, unreadable. But when I mentioned the will, I saw his jaw tighten. And she left me $1, he muttered, as if it didn't matter to him at all. I know. I blinked, stunned. You know? Yeah, he said, leaning back in his chair. I've known about the will for a while. Lydia wasn't exactly subtle about how she felt about me. Why didn't you say anything? I asked, my frustration boiling over. Why didn't you tell me? Ryan's eyes flickered with something like anger, but he quickly masked it. Because I didn't want your pity, Dad. I didn't want to be another one of her disappointments in your eyes. I shook my head. Ryan, this isn't about pity. It's about what's going on with you. The lawyer gave me some information about your involvement with certain people. His eyes hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, son, I said, my voice firm. The records I saw show transactions, money, people, dangerous people. This isn't just about a will. This is about you getting in too deep. You've been hiding something, haven't you? Ryan stood up abruptly, pacing across the room. I'm not hiding anything. You never understood, Dad. You were too busy with your own life to care about what I was doing. I stood up too, my fists clenching. I do care. That's why I'm here, Ryan. I'm not going to let you throw everything away. I'm not going to watch you destroy your life. He turned to face me, his face twisted with frustration. You think you can just walk back into my life and fix everything? You think this is all about me not measuring up to your expectations? I'm not the person you want me to be, and I never will be. I took a step forward, trying to keep my calm. I never asked you to be someone else. I just want you to stop lying. Stop making deals with people who don't care about you. I want you to be safe. Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he turned away and walked to the window, staring out at the city below. You don't get it, Dad, he said quietly. I'm too far in. What would you do if your child told you they were too far gone to fix? Would you walk away or try to save them? Type yes. If you would walk away, type no if you'll save them. The drive back to Charleston was even harder than the one before. The conversation with Ryan kept playing in my mind. His anger, his defensiveness, it all made sense now. He wasn't just angry at me for being absent, he was angry at himself for being trapped. And yet, part of me couldn't let go of the feeling that he was still hiding something bigger than I could see. The next morning, I couldn't sleep. I knew I had to go back to Rebecca and get more information. There had to be something more to Lydia's will. Something that would help me understand why she had left me everything and Ryan so little. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like I was missing the key piece of this puzzle. When I arrived at Rebecca's office, she greeted me with a look of quiet concern. She didn't need to say anything. I knew this wasn't going to be a simple conversation. Mr. Miles, I've gone through more of Lydia's files, she said, sliding a thick stack of papers toward me. "There's something I need to show you. It's about Ryan." I took a deep breath and opened the folder. Inside, I found documents, receipts, and transaction logs, but one piece caught my attention immediately. It was a series of emails between Lydia and an anonymous source, filled with cryptic warnings about Ryan's involvement in illegal activities. The messages were clear. Ryan was dealing with people who had connections to organized crime. "She knew," I said quietly, staring at the screen. "Lydia knew everything." Rebecca nodded. "She had her suspicions for months. There were several incidents, strange meetings, odd financial transactions, but she couldn't bring herself to confront him. She didn't want to believe that her own son was involved in something like this." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling a knot form in my stomach. My own son, mixed up with criminals? This wasn't the Ryan I knew, the one who used to love football and dreamed of being something more than a factory worker. How had it all gone so wrong? Rebecca pulled out another document. "There's more," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lydia found evidence of Ryan trying to withdraw a large sum of money from her personal accounts. It was right before she passed away. I blinked in disbelief. He tried to take her money? Not just any money. It was the last of the family savings. The sum would have given him a chance to disappear completely, into whatever world he had fallen into. I closed the folder, trying to process the weight of what I'd just heard. Was Ryan really planning to cut ties with everyone, disappear into the shadows, and leave me and Lydia behind for good? "I need to confront him again," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. "I need to know the truth. I can't keep living with these questions." Rebecca hesitated, then met my gaze. "You need to be careful, Mr. Miles. Ryan is involved in dangerous things. And if he's made deals with these people, he might not be as innocent as you want to believe. Confronting him now might make things worse." But it was too late for caution. I had already decided. I couldn't sit idly by and let my son continue down this path. If there was a chance to save him, I had to take it, no matter the cost. "Do you think I should confront Ryan again, even knowing the danger involved? Or should I stay away and let Ryan handle his own mistakes?" I didn't waste any more time. The feeling that Ryan was slipping further away from me was overwhelming. As much as I wanted to believe he could still turn things around, I knew deep down that the window of opportunity was closing fast. I had to act before it was too late. I called Ryan again, and this time his voice didn't sound as cold. There was something different, something desperate. "Dad?" His voice cracked slightly, betraying a hint of vulnerability I hadn't heard before. "I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" My heart skipped. Finally, a crack in his armor. I agreed without hesitation, and within an hour I was at his door. Ryan opened it slowly, his eyes scanning the hallway behind me before letting me in. He didn't invite me to sit. Instead, he stood, shifting from foot to foot, clearly agitated. "I've got a problem," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Ryan," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "we need to talk about everything, about what you've gotten yourself into." "I know," he interrupted, his face pale. "I've been stupid, okay? You were right. I've made mistakes, but it's too late now." I watched him closely, unsure of where this conversation was headed. "What are you talking about? It's never too late." Ryan turned away from me, pacing across the room. "You don't get it, Dad. I've made deals with people you don't understand. I'm involved with people who won't just walk away. If I don't follow through, they'll come for me. And they'll come for you, too. My stomach tightened. I could see the fear in his eyes. Fear I hadn't seen in years. My son, once so confident and proud, was now caught in something much deeper than I had realized. This wasn't just a matter of a few bad decisions. This was about survival. "Ryan, listen to me," I said, stepping closer. "I don't care about what you've done. I care about getting you out of this mess. We can fix this, together. But you have to trust me." He stopped pacing and looked at me, his face a mix of anger and defeat. "Trust you? After everything? After how you've abandoned me all these years? You think I want your help now?" His words hit me hard, and I felt the sting of every regret I'd buried over the years. But this wasn't the time to back down. "I never abandoned you, Ryan," I said, my voice firm. "I made mistakes, but I've always been here for you. And I'll be here now, no matter what. But you've got to make a choice. You can keep running, or you can take my hand and face this head-on." Ryan looked away, torn between anger and something else. Something like shame, maybe. But as the silence stretched, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. It wasn't just defiance, it was fear. Real fear. The kind that came from knowing he was in too deep to get out on his own. "Dad, I don't know if I can get out of this," he whispered, his voice shaking. I stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to do it alone. We'll figure this out. Together." For the first time in years, Ryan didn't pull away. He stood there, shoulders slumped, looking at me like he was finally starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was there for him after all. The days that followed felt like a ticking clock. Ryan had agreed to work with me, but I could see the strain on his face every time we spoke. It wasn't just the fear of the criminals closing in, it was the weight of knowing he had dragged me into this mess. But even with that, I saw something else in his eyes. Hope. For the first time in a long while, I thought maybe, just maybe, we could turn this around. We spent the next few days putting together a plan. Ryan was going to come clean to the authorities about his involvement. But we couldn't just go to the police. There were too many people watching him. He'd have to stay off the radar until we could get the proper protection, which meant no contact with anyone connected to the criminal underworld. That night, after another long conversation about his options, Ryan looked at me, his face taut with frustration. "What if they find me first?" he asked, his voice trembling. "What if it's too late to get out?" I knew what he was really asking. What if we both get caught in this mess? "We'll be ready," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "We'll protect ourselves, but we need to act fast. You've got to go to the authorities before they make their move." But just as I was beginning to think we had a plan in place, things took a sharp turn. It was late the next night when I got the call. Ryan's voice was frantic, filled with panic and urgency. "Dad, I messed up. I didn't mean to. But they know. They know what I've been doing. They're coming for me." My heart sank. I had feared this moment, and now it was here. It was all happening faster than I had imagined. I grabbed my keys, my hands shaking as I drove to Ryan's apartment. I couldn't get there fast enough. As I turned the corner near his building, I saw a black SUV parked across the street, its windows tinted, men inside watching the entrance. It was them, the people Ryan had gotten involved with. I parked a few blocks away, my mind racing. Ryan's call had made it clear they were closing in, and if I didn't get him out of there, it would be too late. I wasn't sure how much time we had, but I knew this wasn't going to be easy. I texted him as I walked towards the building, "Get out of the apartment now. I'm coming for you." Ryan's response was brief. "They're already here. I cursed under my breath, feeling the weight of the situation press down on me. I had always thought that if it came to it, I would protect him, keep him safe. But now, I wasn't sure how I was going to keep us both alive. I moved quickly, staying out of sight, and snuck around the back of the building. I found a door that wasn't locked, and when I stepped inside, I could hear muffled voices, Ryan's, and the deep, threatening tones of the men who had come to collect him. I crept closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ryan, we know everything," one of the men said. "Time's up. You've been playing games with us for too long." I could see Ryan, backed into a corner, his face pale, his hands shaking. He looked like he was going to break. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. This was it. "Get down!" I shouted, bursting through the door, my voice raw with adrenaline. The men turned, their eyes wide in surprise, but I was already in motion. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed Ryan, pulling him towards the back exit. "Come on!" I yelled, dragging him along. We barely made it out the door before the men started charging after us, shouting threats. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind us, but we kept running. My legs burned, but I didn't stop. Not when Ryan was right there, not when his life, and mine, was hanging by a thread. We reached the street, and I didn't stop to look back. We hopped into my car, and I slammed the engine into gear, racing off into the night. We were out of danger, for now. But the truth was, we hadn't won yet. We'd made it this far, but the war was far from over. The car sped through the dark streets, the headlights cutting through the fog like a beacon in the night. My heart was still racing, the adrenaline pumping through my veins, but I couldn't let up. Not yet. Not when we were this close to being free. I kept my eyes on the road, my hands gripping the wheel tightly. Ryan sat beside me, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear. We hadn't spoken much since I pulled him into the car, and I didn't think he had the words to say what he was feeling. Hell, I didn't have the words either. But we were still alive, and that's all that mattered. "Where are we going?" Ryan finally asked, his voice shaky. "We're getting out of the city," I said, trying to sound confident. "We'll lay low until we figure this out. You're not going back to that apartment, not with those people after you." Ryan didn't respond, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. He wanted to fight back, to find a way to make everything go back to normal. But we both knew it couldn't. Not anymore. The road stretched ahead, dark and empty. But my mind was elsewhere, on what had just happened, on the men who had come after Ryan. I'd never seen people like that before. Dangerous, merciless, the kind of people who wouldn't stop until they had what they wanted. I couldn't let that happen. Not to Ryan. Not to me. After a few miles, I turned onto a secluded road that led to an old cabin I owned up in the mountains. It was far enough from the city, hidden enough that no one would think to look for us. I parked the car behind the cabin and turned to Ryan. "This is our safe place. We stay here until we can figure out what to do next," I said, my voice steady, though inside I felt anything but. Ryan looked at the cabin, then back at me. "What happens now, Dad?" he asked quietly. I swallowed hard. "Now, we start over. We make a plan. We go to the police. Get your statement on record. We can't keep running." Ryan's eyes flickered with uncertainty. "You really think they'll believe me? That they won't just throw me in prison?" I took a deep breath. "I think they'll listen. I'll make them listen. We'll get you into witness protection if we have to." There was silence between us, the kind of silence that stretched out too long, too thick. Ryan didn't say anything more, but I could see that his mind was working, processing everything I had just said. "I don't deserve this," he whispered, barely audible. I don't deserve your help. I shook my head, stepping closer to him. You're my son, Ryan. You deserve a chance. We all make mistakes. But this is your chance to make things right, to fix what you've broken. Ryan looked up at me then, his face drawn, his eyes filled with a mixture of relief and shame. I could see the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him, but there was something else there too, something I hadn't seen in years. Hope. You really think I can do this? He asked, his voice low, uncertain. I know you can, I said, my voice firm, reassuring. But it's up to you. The hard part's over. Now, we do the right thing. I didn't know how this would end. I didn't know if Ryan could turn things around, or if we would just be running for the rest of our lives. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let him face this alone. He was my son, and that meant everything. As we sat in the silence of the cabin, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. Maybe, just maybe, we could find redemption together. Or maybe, this would all end in ruin. But no matter what happened next, I knew I had done everything I could to help him. Do you think Ryan can truly change after everything that's happened? Or is it too late for him to redeem himself? If you believe in second chances, hit that like button. Don't forget to comment below with your thoughts on Ryan's future. And subscribe for more gripping stories like this one. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing than you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.